President Trump delivered his State of the Union speech this week, and, as could be expected, it has received praise from Republicans and criticism from Democrats. Zaid Jilani, fellow at Berkeley Greater Good Science Center think tank. How do you think Trump did?
Well, I think in some ways, by his standards, he was fairly subdued. He had made a number of gestures to bipartisanship. He made a number of gestures of uniting the country, of endorsing policies like paid leave, which I think many people can get behind. But at the same time, I think he still wasn't able to resist that urge to kind of poke his finger in the eye of some of his opponents, to make bold claims about his presidency that just really aren't backed up by facts. And so, I think that's really the sort of the zeitgeist of the Trump presidency is that, this man has a chance to be quite a uniting figure because he's not a doctrinaire Republican. But he often chooses to engage in feuds and sort of rivalries, and I think that undercuts the message. I do think the speech, I think the CNN polled people as like 70 or 75% approval, so I do think he maybe made some steps in that direction. But then on the next day on Twitter, he's out there bashing the Democrats. And, the question is, don't you really have to pick one posture? Don't you have to either want to be a uniter or want to be a divider? And I think, unfortunately, he often goes on the division side.
Christian Barnard, Young Voices, what's your opinion?
I think that Trump's rhetoric, of course, is always going to be aggressive. And like you said, Zed, it was probably subdued by his standards. I think there were a couple high points that are worth noting. The First Step Act is definitely legislation, criminal justice reform worth touting, as well as the fact that 58% of the newly created jobs were filled by women. That was definitely a high point that attracted a lot of applause from a lot of the leftist women newly elected to Congress that ran specifically against him. So that was definitely a high point. But of course, yes, some of his statements on foreign policy were highly questionable about this idea that if he had not been president, that they would be at war with North Korea. I think that is kind of crazy. But there were definitely some good high points worth noting. But yes, of course, you can't forget that he's going to take to Twitter the next day and tear it all back down.
Well, we count on him for that, don't we?
Yeah, of course.
And Gregory Clay, what's your opinion?
Well, Donald Trump, of course, likes to have everything both ways. As what Barnard was just saying, he can unite and then he can divide. Sometimes in the same sentence, sometimes in the same phrase, just separated by commas, But one thing that Donald Trump did that struck me is that I think his speech was more so getting ready for 2020. It's obvious he wants to be a factor, and I think that speech kind of set the tone, especially when he discussed socialism. And he obviously was trying to make a distinction, and he went straight after AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. But notice what he did, though, which was very clever. He molded socialism to the form of South America. Where? Venezuela. Hey, think about it. Bernie Sanders, the socialistic dude, when he talks about socialism, he ties it to where?
Scandinavia.
There you go. Yeah. It's a major difference. The D word in the House. And he said, hey, wait a minute here. Y'all love this socialism thing. Hey, check out the South of us.